As we've heard many times before, it is undeniably true that budgets are, in fact, moral documents. And I am proud that this budget represents the moral compass of this body, which I do believe bends towards social justice and the pursuit of the common good. And I also believe that our North Star is ensuring fiscal responsibility, racial equity, and economic prosperity for all. And let me also state for the record that before joining this body, I did not need reading glasses. In this budget, we are putting a heavy emphasis on equity in all facets of this $5.8 billion budget. With an equity lens firmly in place, we are making investments in education, safe and healthy communities, our environment, affordable housing, and a strong safety net for our most vulnerable residents, while taking into account our county's incredible diversity and striving to reduce the racial and ethnic disparities that we know exist. This budget is also about balance. It holds the line on taxes. It is a lean budget that has forced us to struggle with competing priorities, as we simply cannot fund everything that deserves to be funded. I'm proud to say that although it is a lean budget, it is also a sustainable budget that sets a firm foundation for our future. We enjoy a high quality of life here in Montgomery County, and we will continue to make progress on our shared goals as long as we scrutinize our spending, commit to a strong reserve, and maintain our AAA bond rating. As chair of the county's Health and Human Services, I'm proud of our continued dedication to the health and well-being of all of our residents. And I believe the headline for me as we deliberated and discussed the budget for Health and Human Services was that our safety net remains strong, but that it's being challenged and is being challenged every day because of the increasing poverty we're seeing in the county, the increasing demographic shifts we're seeing, and the record number of caseloads across the board, and numerous challenges with housing. This just underscores that our tax revenues are not keeping pace with the demand that we're seeing among our public. Thanks to the incredible dedication of county staff, the hard work of Health and Human Services, and our valuable partnerships in the nonprofit sector, we're able to keep pace, but certainly more needs to be done. Restoring funding for the support payment to organizations that provide direct services to people with disabilities was a top priority for me, and I know my colleagues as well. I'm passionate about the people and organizations that do this tremendously difficult but important work. We are seeing a sharp increase in adults with disabilities and special needs, and make no mistake that unless we provide a stronger infrastructure moving forward, then we will face unprecedented challenges ahead. We cannot afford to ignore the realities we'll be facing in the near future, and therefore I will be convening a work group to chart a path forward that will ensure equitable and fair funding for the organizations who do important work in this important space. The Council will also need to look at addressing this vulnerable population holistically, working with our state delegation and our state partners to fully integrate our services so that we can address the needs of this community seamlessly and affordably. Our nonprofit providers, and I started my career in the nonprofit sector, are a crucial link in delivering health and human services to our most vulnerable residents. These important partners often struggle to absorb the administrative expenses to be able to carry forward these vital programs. And that's why we fought hard for an across-the-board 3% increase for these organizations so that there can be more administrative capacity in this year and moving forward. And we cannot leave them without the resources to provide the high-quality services that we expect of them. Another area we struggle is in providing resources needed to intervene earlier with our youth. This is an extremely important investment in our future. We've added more school resource officers and funding for critical mental health needs and programs in schools. And I'm particularly proud that we are working on further closing the opportunity that exists in the county through the expansion of Excel Beyond the Bell and Rec Extra in both our elementary and middle schools. And I want to thank my colleagues for their leadership, and in particular, Councilmember Reamer, who's been a strong partner in this effort, not just this year, Council President Navarro as well, but in many previous years as well. Early intervention is an investment that will garner benefits well beyond the dollars spent. And this truly is an education-first budget. It not only fully funds our Board of Education's request, but will also provide MCPS with an additional $16 million in state funding stemming from the Kirwan Commission recommendations to help close the achievement gap. This is a great win for our exceptional school system, and this funding will continue to provide investments in special education, pre-K education, and the reduction of elementary school class sizes. English language learners, economic parity, teacher salary increases, and mental health and support resources will also be provided through this budget. Recently, I met with a group of students from Montgomery College, and as I shared recently during our work session, having both of my parents having attended Montgomery College leaves Montgomery College with a near and dear place in my heart, and I would not be sitting here literally without Montgomery College. And it was in that meeting with those students that it really underscored how valuable Montgomery College is as an asset in our community, not just from an economic development standpoint, but in really helping to shape the lives of these kids. The college does an amazing job of providing social and emotional support and learning that ensures that students not only thrive academically when in Montgomery College, but they thrive socially and emotionally as well. And I'm proud that we fully funded the college in this budget. Lately, we as a community are experiencing the effects of climate change, and this is undoubtedly the biggest existential threat facing our globe today. And so I'm proud that we were able to place $400,000 in this year's budget, acknowledging that much more needs to be done in the future and that we need to take a broad and holistic approach to climate issues that go just beyond the Department of Environmental Protection, but that fully involve public-private partnerships with our community and our private sector. We've also made a big commitment to affordable housing in this budget, having added an additional $5 million thanks to the leadership of my colleague, Councilmember Friedson, within the Housing Initiative Fund, above the county executive's recommendation. And that is another significant issue facing our community across the board. Housing is a crisis in the county, and affordable housing means different things to different people, but we have to acknowledge that much more needs to be done now and into the future to ensure that we have a sustainable place for people to live within our community. And so, as I close, colleagues, I want to thank my staff, and in particular, the entire team, Joy Nurmi, Lillian Cruz, Beth Schumann, and Maida Bayonet. I also want to thank our council staff, especially Ms. Michelson, Ms. Linda McMillan, and Ms. Vivian Yao. And I do greatly want to thank our county executive and our executive branch. The $10 million that you led us off with was certainly very helpful throughout this process, and I appreciated the collaborative approach that led to the addition of some funding towards the end of our budget process that will lay a better foundation moving forward. And I look forward to partnering with my colleagues in the executive branch on looking and exploring at a 2-year budgeting option, but also finding efficiencies and trying to fill needs as they exist throughout the entire county. And lastly, I want to thank my colleagues. It is an absolute honor and privilege to serve with all of you. You are remarkably bright, dedicated, patient, and I am so thrilled about what these next 4 years are going to look like. And finally, Council President Navarro, to you in particular, you've been a mentor and friend for many years prior to me joining this body. And watching you in action behind the scenes as we deliberated over some pretty difficult issues, and I'm sure more moving forward, was impressive. And I can't thank you and your team enough for all that you have done to support this body through yet another challenging fiscal year. Muchas gracias to everybody.